So friends, in Telangana movement, we have different, undercurrents. If you see what made Telangana movement so vibrant, what made Telangana movement so widespread, and what made Telangana movement so effective, there are different undercurrents which we can identify. And friends, the most important aspect is, the three important things that on which the Telangana movement was based was, of course, water, funds, and of course jobs. These are the three important aspects. But then, while this slogan is fine, even in Telugu it is always said, Neelu, Nidru, Niyamakalu. Even when this budget speech was also being made, when the announcement about jobs were being made, all these generally very popularly, these three words are used even by the politicians, right? Water and employment or jobs and funds. Apart from this, but we see historically, historically if you see what actually had aided or nurtured the feeling of deprivation among Telangana people of Telangana, or the first thing is actually the underdevelopment, right? Underdevelopment of the state. This is also true not only in current period or post-independent, even before independence, the Telangana region was definitely underdeveloped than its counterparts, in say for example Andhra. Another very important aspect we need to see is the issue of economic opportunities. In economic opportunities, we have different issues, right? Economic opportunities. In economic opportunities, the popular trend was to see if the employment opportunities were being given or not. In other words, simply the job opportunities, right? Employment or job. Then, of course, we do have the other growth of economy. For example, the growth of industries, or broadly agriculture. In other words, we can say it is actually economic development, right? Agriculture and economic development. And of course, if you see the opportunities aspect, friends, as per our syllabus in Telangana movement, after Solange reforms and modernization, his efforts at modernization of Hyderabad, we see that there is a mention of the Mulki and non-Mulki agitation, right? And its role in Telangana movement. Friends, if we narrow down these issues, underdevelopment of course is a broader thing which will come back later after this, right? And agricultural industries, of course, they were also not too developed. We didn't have much irrigation, water, and obviously this impacted agriculture. Just go to office. So what actually we see is that there is a kind of deprivation, economic deprivation, that we also see in Telangana, which is a different topic. But now let us talk about the employment issues. When it comes to employment, the whole issue is whether it is our own people or whether it is outsiders. Bahmani kingdom, as I said in the previous classes, the whole issue of the Deccanese and Afakis came up in Bahmani kingdom, right? Muhammad Gawan and all this, Bahmani kingdom later got disintegrated into, independent sultanates of Bijapur, Ahmednagar, Berar, Bidar and Golconda. And Golconda is, the state in which Telangana and Andhra were part of, the regions. So it is not that, the local non-local issue, I'm sorry, it's not that the local non-local issue or the Mulki non-Mulki issue is something naive to the movement of Telangana as we see in its latest phases. Whether it is the mobilization phase or the achievement phase, you see it is very much inherent to the whole routing of the state system in Telangana and the administrative structure. And friends, this is very important to note that the roots of Mulki and non-Mulki agitation goes back to Solange period, Solange the first period, and friends, it continued up to 2014 when we had the creation of Telangana. And of course, if you see the justification given by our Chief Minister, Sri K. Chandrasekhar Rao Garu, that the presidential order and why recruitments have been delayed, including what you are preparing for now, the group 1, is that, you know, the local and non-local cadre. Now, it is only 5% of the jobs can be given to non-locals, non-Telangana people, right? So, in fact, we can say that the Mulki and non-Mulki agitation, the Mulki and non-Mulki issue had travelled far and wide from 1868 when Solange made a first attempt to train the locals in administration so that the people or importation of people from outside need not be brought, and from then till 2022 when we have final facilitation of the jobs for locals, right? So 95% of the jobs for locals. So we had a long journey. So friends, if the Mulki and non-Mulki issue, its role played by Telangana, if there is a question, what you need to do is you just capture this trajectory of Telangana, Mulki and non-Mulki, whether it is from, it originated, if you see the syllabus period, you know, of course, Bahmanis, Deccanis, Afakis and Golconda will go beyond the syllabus. But if you see from the syllabus point of view, the Asaf Jahi period point of view, in the first segment of Telangana syllabus, that is idea of Telangana, you can safely say that the Mulki and non-Mulki issue played a very key role in Telangana movement. The journey of Mulki agitation, which dated back to 1860s in the time of Solange, ended finally in 2022 when 95% of the jobs were created to locals. So friends, imagine the profound impact, imagine the profound feeling of deprivation, and just imagine the losses suffered by the people in not getting jobs in different regions of Telangana, and that deprivation provided a strong support for Telangana movement. The youth, most of you, you know, and all the people who were looking for jobs, not only group 1, for any other jobs in the state, they provided the fulcrum. They were the backbone for the movement. Without participation of students, whether it is Usmania University, which is close to our place now, and whether it is Kakatiya University or Palamur, you take up any universities, any students in Telangana, their support made the movement very, very stronger, and the origins were in the Mulki, non-Mulki agitation. So the first point is that historically, friends, the Mulki and non-Mulki issue, the local and non-local issue had played a very key role in Telangana movement right from the beginning. And now let us identify what are the points, what are the different stages we can see in this Mulki and non-Mulki, and what are the important points. You know, as I was telling, the first arrival of non-locals in Telangana was during the period of Solange in our syllabus period, right? But if you see before that, there are Afakis, right? But anyway, in syllabus, as per our syllabus, the first arrival of non-locals had started in Solange. Now, why Solange wanted to bring non-locals? He wanted to bring non-locals precisely because he thought there was not enough administrative experience, there was not enough administrative talent that was there in Telangana at that point of time, the Asaf Jahi state at that point of time. So he started importing experts, you know, he started importing experts from outside. You know, we have Bengal, we have UP, and you know, we have Delhi. These are the people, these are the places from where large number of administrative experts and others were invited by Solange the first to man different positions in Asaf Jahi state. And friends, this is called downward filtration theory. This is called downward filtration theory in Mulki and non-Mulki issue in Telangana and Telangana movement, because see the idea, what do you mean by downward filtration theory? This is simply like this, you know what, we import a galaxy of experts from outside, and in turn they will start training the locals in administration. And friends, downward filtration theory is also adopted by the British in education and others. For example, if you see the Wood's dispatch, Charles Wood's dispatch and others, we do get reference to downward filtration theory. Now, what is downward filtration theory? We see in the import of experts in administration from Telangana, that if Solange 1 was bringing a substantial number of experts from outside Asafjahi state, he expected that they would train the locals in administration, and automatically after a period of time the non-locals will be phased out and the locals will take up their positions. Okay. The second important aspect is, unfortunately, this did not happen. Now, for example, those experts who were brought by Solange from outside, when there was a need to expand the administration, what they did is they called their own people. They did not train the locals from Asafjahi state or Telangana, and obviously the number of non-locals were increasing, because the moment if you are an officer brought from outside by Solange, you would simply call your own people from your state that I am appointing so many people, why don't you come? So what has happened, over a period of time, this gradually led to increase in the number of non-locals in the Asafjahi state and the administration broadly in Telangana region at this point of time. And friends, it was not a simple issue. Within almost 10-15 years, that means, say for example, if in 1853 Solange became the prime minister, then by 1868 there were complaints, large number of complaints in the court that the number of non-locals were rising and they were trying to boss over the locals, so much so that Solange was forced to prepare a plan to ensure that the non-locals will train the locals. But the first attempt to train the locals, and the feasibility study was actually, feasibility program was actually taken up by Solange in 1868, but unfortunately, as we see, it never moved on. Friends, another important point is, in fact, most of the initiatives that were aimed to remove the imbalances in jobs or in economic opportunities, in investments in water, including what was there in the gentleman agreement and all that, they were never implemented. If all those things were properly implemented, Telangana would have been much more a faster state to develop and do that. So, what I am trying to say is, the first attempt was, the first point you need to know about this is Solange. Then, the second important factor that widened the gap between Mulki and non-Mulki was actually the introduction of Urdu language and the increasing use of English from 1880. Okay, this became a handicap for locals, both for British as well as Hyderabad administrators started developing a contempt for locals. For example, in the court culture of Nizam, if we are not knowing Urdu and speaking Urdu, people were looked down upon. At the same time, for British, of course, they used English, and the top echelons of Asafjahi court were always rubbing their shoulders with the British speaking English, right? So, the two important, handicaps for locals in trying to get trying to get important portions in Telangana was introduction of Urdu as well as the fad, the craze towards using English. And friends, in fact, the the first list of locals and non-locals was actually compiled as a draft in 1886, and it became official document in 1888. That means it is not in 2012 or 2014 or whatever that people complained about the lack of jobs and the domination by outsiders. As early as 1886, first document draft was prepared on who are locals, who are non-locals in the key positions, and of course it became an official document in the 1888. So friends, the numbers are very interesting. You know, while the initial numbers actually had more non-locals, the higher percentage was shown by Mulkis, you know, and you know, at 52%, but the expenditure on them was only 48%. That means they were obviously at the local smaller positions and whatever. That is one very important thing. Then the next important point what you can actually see here is also the deep rooted background to the Mulki and non-Mulki issue. Then friends, for the first time the controversy of non-Mulkis and you know, the lower importance given to Mulkis led to a kind of issuing of gazette by Nizam. See, this shows that the Mulki non-Mulki agitation was not as simple as it was looking. It had lot of points. Then those who lived for 12 years, according to the gazette issued by Nizam, those who lived 12 years are subjected to be defined as Mulkis or natives, and jobs were earmarked for them further. You know, the document was too ambitious, definitely. You know, it's a great document in a way, because there was a threat of almost a kind of court rebellion and popular rebellion in the officialdom, that Nizam was forced to bring this. But then, see, documents are almost sacrosanct. You know, job calendars are sacrosanct. In Andhra Pradesh, for example, they issued a job calendar, and the calendar was never implemented so far, right? Very fanfare. Of course, now we hope the Telangana government is keen on jobs they identified and given a roadmap. So, but see, administrative decisions or the ambitious plans were always good, but the real importance is to be given to the implementation. And friends, here the Nizam's order, gazette rather, was actually not implemented, and that is one more important thing. Then in 1894, we are still in 19th century. In 1894, there was some other important development. There was a first transparent list of gazetted officers in the Nizam government was released. You know, this is very stunning. There were a total of 680 officers. You know, out of 680, we have 447 as non-locals. You know, see, this is just unacceptable, right? Where is 680? There 447. You know, this shows that strong presence of non-Mulkis, non-locals in Nizam's administration. And friends, this 1894 list is also a very important point, very important beginning for a new lease of life to the Mulki agitation in Hyderabad state. That is one very important. Now we have in 1894, when this list was released, we have the Prime Minister was Kishan Prasad. You know, Parshad. Actually, Parshad has become Prasad later. You know, Parshad, you know, Prasad is a very popular name, right? Even movies, they say Pelikan Prasadu and all that. I remember some movie, Venkatesh movie, you know. So, Prasad is very popular, but Prasad has actually come from Parshad. Parshad. Kishan Parshad was the Prime Minister, and he was somewhat he was a wavering man. But friends, what has happened? It was in this time that the movement got picked up, but then the strong camp, these non-locals, non-mulkis are very strong and influential because they were in top jobs always. So they were able to contain this kind of opposition to their presence, and this did not pick up any further. So the issue of Mulki and non-Mulki was actually lying like an undercurrent of the Telangana political economy. Now the next important stage what we see is in 1900 and 1919. During 1900 and 1919, the course of Mulki movement had a very interesting twist. Now what has happened? This was predominantly during 19 and 1919. The ministers, top ministers, including finance and all that in Hyderabad state, they were very hostile to the Mulkis. That's a very important. The issue of Urdu speaking and non-Urdu speaking Mulkis had also become an important part here, right? So the issue is we have a greater number of people getting educated. We did talk about Solange's reforms in education, but after this Mulki and non-Mulki, before we go to the other topics, I will also give you some background on how Hyderabad was developing up to 1948. The social and economic development of Hyderabad and social awareness that was there formed a very important factor for creating pro-Telangana sentiment that we will see later. But friends, in 1919, there is a famous Farman of Nizam, which was again taken up the issue of Mulki and non-Mulki. This is because the increasing presence of educated youth in Telangana. Now they are Urdu literate. They wanted better jobs for themselves and all that. The next important point is, now what was this Farman of 1919 Nizam? Now it says only Mulkis should be appointed as government employees, and only those who are born in Hyderabad are considered as locals. That is point number one. I will give notes of all this anyway. The second important point is, those who served as government employees for 15 years in Hyderabad and their children will also be considered as locals. This is about the Farman of 1919 by Nizam. Then who has to certify this, whether somebody is a local or non-local? A collector certification is the basis. It's a very important. For example, even if you are applying for civils or other government jobs, you need to get OBC certificate, you need to get non-creamy layer certificate and all that. This is issued by a collector top or not below the rank of a Tahsildar or a magistrate, Tahsildar and magistrate, Mandal revenue officer, right? Like that, 1919 Farman had also made one important aspect. The important aspect is that collector should certify this. Then there is a very interesting thing. Written test based examinations have also become a part after this Farman. Some sort of written test, whether it is linguistic ability or the kind of jobs. The test was not uniform like today, TSPSC or UPSC or APPSC, but it was actually decided by the Prime Minister or the concerned head of the department who would do that test. So that is also one important point you need to remember. So the next issue is, again we do have few days of implementation. This is a recurring problem in Telangana development. Not a single agreement not a single farman or order, not a single promise was properly implemented by the rulers before 2014. So the same thing has happened. You know, we have the next round of movement started after 1925, 1919 Farman. You know, by 1924-25 things were you know, already back to action. So we have very strong rulers like Burgul Ramakrishna Rao, we have Akbar Ali Khan, then we have you know, Abdul Hassan Syed Ali, we also have M. Narsingh Rao. These are the people who started a next round of movement, and this led to issue of again another Farman for Mulkis, that is in 1933. See, the cyclic movement is very simple. You know, this is happening, as I said, right from the publication of first list of Mulkis and non-Mulkis. Then of course you know, the Farman, 1919 Farman. Then again we got one more Farman, because 1919 Farman was not implemented. We got one more Farman, that is 1933. Again this is for jobs of the Mulkis. Friends, the spirit, what is the essence? What is the essence of 1919 Farman? It is also the same thing. There is one addition. The women who married a non-Mulki and returns to Hyderabad after the death of husband will be treated as Mulki, but not the children. You know, this is a thing, because the woman is our place, but because the father is non-Mulki, they cannot be Mulkis. This is how it was happened at this point of time. And friends, the 1919 and 1933 Farmans were now again, now 1933 Farman was subsumed by 1933 Farman. The rules remained the same. Earlier rules, what were the rules? You know, locals who were born in Hyderabad were Mulkis, and who served in Hyderabad for 15 years, they and their children will also be Mulkis, right? Locals. Now, what is the addition? The addition is, apart from these two things, we do have one more aspect, that is the marriages, because the marriages were very broad based even in those times. So it has to be seen whether it is a Mulki or non-Mulki. So this is a kind of, actually, though we call it a 1933 Farman officially, friends, it was actually like a kind of amendment, or rather, you know, add on to 1919 Farman. Friends, the Mulkis were now somewhat, they got little relief. The increasing focus on the non-implementation of Mulki and non-Mulki had now mobilized some of the people. So the Mulkis were now trying to protect their own interests, and of course they are trying to have some kind of bargaining power. So the mobilization of the Mulkis was quite phenomenal after 1933. And friends, we do have Nizam Subjects League, the formation of Nizam Subjects League because of this kind of mobilization. And you know, this was founded by Nizamat Jang as president and Burgul Ramakrishna Rao as secretary. Nizam Subjects League. Right? Who was the leaders associated with? It is Nizamat Jang and as president, and Burgul Ramakrishna Rao as secretary. But friends, we do have other great leaders from Hyderabad, whether it is already I told you Abdul Hassan Syed Ali, then we do have Latif Syed, Madapati Hanmant Rao, M. Narsingh Rao. All these people and their followers did support this Hyderabad you know, mobilization of Mulkis under Nizam Subjects League. Then friends, the most powerful and interesting slogan at this point of time is Hyderabad for Hyderabadis. See how things were becoming more and more stronger and quicker by this time. And friends, now you see what has happened. We need to integrate the movement for Mulki rights in administration and the mobilization under Nizam Subjects League by Nizamat Jung and Burgula, but at the same time you situate the context of 1930s. That was the time when we have a strong currents of national movement were also coming up, whether it is beyond Hyderabad or British India or also in the princely states. Now the issue is Nizam was naturally worried, because the more and more nationalistic agitation creeps into Telangana or Asaf Jahi state, we have a problem of people demanding democracy. What would happen if people are promoting anti-British feeling? The same thing has happened, and after we got independence, Nizam did not agree to join. So as a loyal supporter to the British, point number one, as a dynastic ruler, as an autocrat, Nizam himself was worried about the possible fallout of the Mulki agitation or Nizam Subjects League acquiring a political color, and obviously to nip this political awareness in the bud, he had to ban this organization in 1939. Friends, we should not forget, Nizam Subjects League was first founded to support the Mulkis in Telangana, but it had started coming under influence of the national movement, and it was the fear that how this Mulki agitation was gradually turning into a kind of political movement with pro-British Nizam getting worried about the anti-British tendencies and the dynasty politics and all others. So friends, as I said, from Solange time onwards up to 1939, we do have a great trajectory for the Mulki and non-Mulki issue. And friends, this had made a very, very strong impact on the Telangana movement. And friends, the kind of disappointment, the long struggle of Telangana Mulkis against the discrimination in jobs and others was able to be brought over effectively. And the success of Telangana movement, whether it was by intellectuals, right, or whether it was by the politicians including TRS, now TRS is a political party, right? So you may like it or you may not like it, and as a teacher or as an aspirant, we are not political. But friends, TRS was able to send the entire message of how the Mulki and non-Mulki or the deprivation in Telangana was conducted, and it was never properly remedied for the people of Telangana. Many agitations has happened. Now let's have a final go, and that kind of spirit was imbibed in youngsters like you who braved the lattes, and I see many people died, right? We have Srikantachari and others. It's very, very sad. I was in the university campus by that time when moving was happening. It was so painful to see all youngsters getting beaten. But then friends, that's why we say the jobs or the support of the youth, the Mulki and non-Mulki issue played a very, very key role in Telangana movement. And this was the time up to 1948. 1933 we have the Nizam Subjects League activities after 1933 Farman. Then of course up to the end of 1930s, this was spearheading the Mulki agitation. But between 1939 and 1948, friends, we all know that things were taking a different shape, and we have a down of Mulki movement, and this again started after the integration of the princely state of Hyderabad into Indian Union, and that's another phase that is actually 1948 to 52. But this is an important area in the first segment of the syllabus, that Mulki and non-Mulki issue, the role it played in Telangana movement in the Asad Jahi state. Okay, rest we will see. I will send notes. I will give you notes after completing one unit. It will be more systematic. Then once I send the notes, we will start the weekly tests. Okay, thank you, friends.